Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome back to Morning Intentions. Today is Tuesday, January 6th. Thank you for joining us today and every day. January is our month of orientation, where instead of doing what we think everyone else wants us to do or what we think we should do, we're listening to ourselves. We're noticing what's alive in us, and we're aligning with our own truth, with what we know is best for us. And we're doing all of that before we decide on anything, before we look at something and say we got to fix that about ourselves, or before we strive and grasp to achieve another goal. Our first practice of this year is to find and truly listen for our word of the year. We're all going to have our own word. We don't need a copy. We don't need to look for someone else. Annette, what do you think my word of the year should be? We're going within, and we're listening to our hearts and our souls, and in a way, we're receiving our word for the year. Annette, you shared with me the process that you went through to listen and get your word of the year. Would you mind sharing that with the rest of us?
I'd love to share how I came up with my word. So remember back, it was either early December or late November where we shared that I had this word of the year, confidence, but I didn't make it like this is my word for the year. I did it around my birthday and I said, I really just want to be more confident. It wasn't as formal as I decided to make it this year. But this year, I want to live what you and I teach. I know neither one of us will be perfect at living what we teach, but I want to do my utmost to live what we teach. Obviously, we're teaching about being intentional with our lives. So I spent a lot of time during our break looking at my life and looking at how I spend my time, when I feel the most rushed and I can't be settled within myself. I just did a lot of exploration. I decided I really do want to have a word for my year to guide me so that when I'm feeling unsettled, that I can come back to this word. This is a process, and I really appreciate what you shared, Ada, when you say that the word of the year is really received, not necessarily chosen.
Right, because my word that I thought I was going to be, if y'all remember from December, I thought it was going to be trust.
Yes.
And I took time over our break. I did a lot of yoga. I meditated more. And that actually isn't my word anymore. I'm not doing trust.
Are you going to share what you are doing?
Yes. The word I'm choosing, or the word I received more, is wholeness. That wasn't on my radar. That wasn't something I was thinking about. But as I took time away from my screens, as I took time away from forcing myself to do or be anything and spent time in stillness and silence, and did some meditative activities. Like I think a lot while I'm cleaning. I did a little tidying up around the holidays, and that gave me a lot of time to process and think and listen to what was going on inside of me. And through that exploration, wholeness was the word that rang true the most. Now, the thing about the word that is the best word for us and the word that speaks to our hearts, it's not something loud and full of spectacle. It's going to be calm. It's going to be steady. And there's this certain inner feeling that we'll have when we say, yeah, that's the one.
And it really starts with reflecting on not only last year, like this is the process that I used. I didn't just think about this past year, like 2025. I thought about my life and I thought about where I am today in relation to other years in my life. What I did, and everyone can do this in a different way, but I do think that the way I did it was helpful for me. So I'm going to share that. And then you can find your own version. We always say we share what we do, then you make your own version of this.
Right, because the way I got to my word of the year is different than yours.
Right. So what I did is I wrote down the parts of my life that bring up some angst inside. Now, be vulnerable. I'm just going to share the whole process. So the parts of my life that bring up some angst is, like I said, if I feel like I'm too much in a rush and I can't feel centered before I do something, or when I allow other people's emotions to influence what I really want to say or what I really want to do. I'm not saying selfishly, I'm saying I think I don't contribute the way I really want to contribute because someone else is having their experience.
Would you say you end up self-censoring?
I self-censor, and then I would also say I abandon myself in some ways. I mean, depending on the situation.
That sounds extreme, but it's also completely accurate.
It is extremely accurate for me that I will abandon myself because you just said something completely opposite from where I'm coming from. So I might keep silent, or I might do a whole host of things, but I do abandon myself. I do censor myself. I'm not talking about I want to be polite. My top 5 values are kindness, consideration, respect, integrity, and hard work. So, of course, I want to be kind. But there's a certain setting when I abandon myself. And I can see this thread that's actually been throughout my life that I've been like that. And it used to be so much more. But now it's almost like I've done a lot of work. So these big things that I still want to work on, they kind of are sticking out like a sore thumb in a way. Like it's if you clean a room and you clean this and you clean that and you go, oh man, I didn't realize it, but this rug looks awful in here. Like it becomes a little more glaring because you've cleaned up some of the other parts. I've been working on personal development for a really long time. And I know I still have a long way to go because I have things like this that come up. And I think this is what life is. Life is a remembering. Life is a learning to trust. Life is all of that. And so this is like my rug that I need to tend to right now.
So you felt angst, or you looked at where you felt angst. You checked in for any type of self-abandonment.
Yes.
And then what else? Because you still haven't shared your word of the year.
Well, I'm not going to share it today. I'm going to share it tomorrow because I want to just share the process that I went through because it wasn't rushed. So for today, what I did was I looked at the threads of my life and picked out one that has been ever present, but that I really need to attend to right now. I know I do because when this occurs, I feel it in my nervous system. I don't feel centered. I don't feel the way I want to feel, which is peaceful. So I'll continue this tomorrow.
So until tomorrow, our intention for today is a reflection question. Our first reflection question of the year. Where do I feel angst or unsettled in my life? Where do I feel angst or where do I feel unsettled in my life? Thank you so much for joining us today. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you tomorrow.
See you then.